Thanks for taking your time to stop and check out this video. I know in years past, for the past several years actually, we've always done a father-son dinner towards the end of January or the beginning of February, and I regret to inform you this year that we're not going to be able to do that. With the latest order from the governor and just COVID regulations and his recommendation of limiting large gatherings, it was just not in our best interest to do that if we look forward to the season ahead and just keeping our players safe and trying to limit the contact tracing and all of those things. But I didn't want to go without taking a time to stop and thank the fathers in our program. And that's one of my favorite nights of the year, is the father-son dinner. And so I wanted to do something at the bare minimum, just something a little unique, to take an opportunity and just bless our fathers and thank you for all that you've done. And it wouldn't be fair to our senior players either to leave them out. It's a wonderful opportunity for them to stand in front of their peers and to just thank their dad and the men in their life for all of the wonderful things that they've done, the influence that they've been. And so I wanted to make sure and give our seniors an opportunity to do just that. And just like in recent years, we're going to have a guest speaker tonight. We're going to have Terry May, who is the family pastor at Central Baptist Church, who's going to give us just a few minutes of his time and briefly speak about fatherhood and just the importance of that role. And if you'd bear with me for just a second, I'd kind of like to do the same thing. As I think about fatherhood, I can't help but be drawn back to Psalm 23. And I'm sure that most of us are familiar with that psalm. If you're not, I would highly encourage you to go back and read that and check it out. But three things David talks about in that psalm as he thinks about, the Lord is shepherding him. And as we think about fatherhood, that's what we do with our own sons, is we shepherd. And as a father, I recognize that. And I think David points out three things that we should kind of keep our focus on as we attempt to shepherd and lead our sons. And so I just want to encourage you with that today. Again, thank you for all that you do as a father to one of our Jet baseball players. But David talked about three things, and he talks about, there's one statement in there, he says, "Your rod and your staff comfort me." And so there's two things going on there. David, first, when you think about a staff, when you think about a shepherd and his staff, the shepherd uses that staff to guide his sheep. He's got to tell them where to go, where not to go. He wants to keep them safe, and he wants his sheep to prosper. And if you're a father, you want to do the exact same thing with your son. We understand that it's a responsibility of ours that we have to guide our sons. They don't always make the best decisions, just like sheep don't always make the best decisions. And actually, when I was a young man in high school, my family had sheep. And I can tell you firsthand, they're not the brightest animal in the world. So it's imperative that the shepherd lead the sheep and guide them around and keep them out of danger. And it's imperative that you do the same thing with your son. And I want to thank you for doing that over the past several years, and thank you ahead of time for what you're going to do here in the future. But you use that staff to guide your son. And David also talks about a rod. Now, we don't like talking about the rod, but we understand that part of fatherhood is discipline. And your son desperately needs discipline. Just like he needs guided, he needs discipline when he makes mistakes, because you want to provide him with that discipline so you can keep him from making the big mistakes in life. A lot of times we look back on our own life and we know the mistakes that we've made. So as a father, we want to make sure that we keep our sons as much as possible from making those same mistakes. We don't want them to hurt like we hurt. And that's where discipline comes in. It may not feel good, and it may hurt in the immediate time frame, but we're trying to avoid that larger hurt down the road. And I know that you know that, and again, I want to thank you for the discipline that you've instilled in the young men in our program. But lastly, David talks about oil, and it's kind of interesting that he uses those terms, but he says, "You anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows." Now, that's not language that we use every day, but what David's talking about is blessing. He's talking about being blessed. And it's important that us as fathers, that we guide our sons and that we discipline our sons. But I fear that, and I'm guilty as anybody, I fear that too often we forget to bless our sons. And it's interesting that David says the result of that blessing, he says, "My cup overflows." All that means is he's full of life. He's encouraged. He's ready to take on the world. And as fathers, we're supposed to do the same thing. Too often I think we forget to bless. And it's subconscious. It's just not what's on the top of our mind. We just fail to do it. It's not that we're holding it back on purpose. We just miss out on those opportunities and we forget. We're so focused on guiding and we're so focused on discipline, but yet sometimes we forget to bless. So I want to encourage you this morning. I want to encourage myself that as you have the opportunity that you have with your son, whether you're a freshman father or whether you're a senior father and those days are dwindling, life's about to change for that young man. It's not ever going to be the same, but it's never too late for you to bless them. You know, every father that I know of wants their son's cup to overflow. They want their son to be full of life, and they want their son to be encouraged. And the key to that is in your hand. All it requires is blessing. So I want to thank you again for the guidance that you've given those young men. I want to thank you for the discipline that you've given those young men. And I want to thank you for the blessing that you've already bestowed on those young men. But I want to challenge you as we move forward. I'm going to challenge myself this season, and I want to challenge you with the opportunities and the time that you have left with your son. Don't forget to bless them so that they may be full of life.
Alright, so my dad, Travis Christopher, started off, he's just, I can't thank God enough for him in every way. He's done everything that I could ever ask him to do, from, the whoopings as a little kid, the little life lessons, just a little hints he'd throw in every once in a while, just everything, And he's been an absolute role model for me my entire life. Absolute. And there's no better guy for me to look up to in life. Just everything that he's went through and he's helped me out with, and everything that he's taught me over the years, and all the times that we've had, it's couldn't ask for any better. And one of the big things that he's taught me is having a work ethic. Whether that's in sports, at your job, in life, with relationships, with family, whatever. He's always taught me to have a work ethic. He's got 2 rules that he still tells me today, and it's put God in it and work at it in everything you do. And it's shown to be true, and I can vouch for it. He can too. But from the time I was a little kid, he always drilled it in my head, you gotta have a work ethic. If you don't work, you ain't gonna get anything in life, And he always said in the Bible, it says, man don't work, man don't eat. And he lives by that. And he's a very godly man, very religious man, and God-fearing, and it's helped me. He's showed me that from the time I was born. Just, you gotta fear God. And he's had me in church ever since I could breathe, pretty much. And I'm very thankful for that. And everything he's done for me has been really based on that. And, I can't thank God enough for him. He's always been there for me. He's always pushed me. He's always helped me. And he has been one of the best figures to step into my life and to be a part of my life, and I can't thank him enough for that. Well, we've had our ups and our downs, just like any other parent has. We'll butt heads every once in a while, but at the end of the day, he loves me, I love him, and he's my dad, and I can't thank God enough for him. But he's definitely been one of the biggest role models in my life, and I'm very thankful for him. And I love him, and I wouldn't change anything that he's done. And I couldn't ask for a better raising, and I couldn't ask for a better dad. But, yeah, that's my dad.
My father is definitely 100% of the reason behind my athletic, academic, personal, and any kind of goals you could ever think of. We have 2010 baseball at the rec park. Back-to-back undefeated champs, by the way. More baseball. We got football, the Mountaineers. You see them on all these. Coach, and there's more pictures. I don't even have all of them. More upward. This one. But anytime I would have just a bad game, or I would just get flustered in my own head, he would just always come by and just comfort me, sit down with me on the bench. Like, even if it was in the middle of the game, he'd just come down and he'd just be like, you just need to breathe. He would tell me what I would do wrong, and then the next day, if I was still struggling, we'd go in the backyard, we'd have a catch, correct my form, and he's just such a good role model with whether it's with sports. He just always knows what he's talking about, and he's just so like, he just gives me so much grace and love. I mean, I had that, you guys remember that Cadillac that I had, and I totaled it, and in like the middle of the pandemic, he got me a new car in like 2 weeks. Like, it's just unbelievable. And as far as family goes, I mean, he has given me, my sister, and his wife just such a great life. I mean, he came from nothing. Single mother, grew up without a dad, had 2 brothers in New York. He had to feed himself, feed his mother sometimes. He had a full-time job at 17, working his absolute tail off. And it's always took us on so many vacations. I've been to so many islands, so many cruises, and honestly, it just makes me want to do that for my kids. I mean, it just sets such a perfect example. I mean, it really is just a perfect example.
Well, my dad, Ken Forte, is an outstanding man. I couldn't have been blessed any more to have this man as my father. He is just always there for me and my family and my mother. He's a great husband. He's a great leader in our family. And he always just wants the best for us and for me. And overall, he's just a great person. All he does is wants to help people, and I love him to death. But he was my coach ever since Pee-wee football or T-ball, or he even tried to coach basketball, but he really has no clue about that. And I always remembered after the games, he would call it a compliment sandwich. He would always tell me what I did good, what I did wrong, and then what I did good again. And then he would tell me how to fix what I did wrong. So after every baseball, football, basketball game, I would always have a huge lecture in the car ride home that I would dread. Once I would remember that, walking off the field, I would always think, oh man, I'm going to have to hear his New Jersey accent for longer than I need to. And that's one thing that, even though I hated it back then, it's made me the person I am today. And he really is just an outstanding man. And we always go take adventures together. We've been to almost every single baseball park together. And there's just nothing that I can't tell my father. No matter what I say, no matter what stupid question I have for him today, he'll always answer it the best way. And if he can't answer it, he'll just get angry and then start yelling at me in his New Jersey accent. But I'm used to it, so I kind of like it now, I guess. But yeah, overall, Dad, just want to say I love you, and I really don't think I could have had a better dad or had a better life with you. So I really appreciate you, and I don't know if I say it enough, but I'll start trying. I love you, and that's it.
I just want to say thank you. I've been dreading this since freshman year. Seeing all those seniors get up there, the ones that we looked up to, their fathers talking about them talking about their dads. It gets to you, you can tell it means something to everybody because of how it makes you feel inside your heart. And thank you. Thank you for always being there, no matter what, buying bats and helmets and gloves and cleats and uniforms and everything else that had to do with this sport. I wouldn't have even played if it wasn't for you and how much you talked it up. Baseball is just the best sport ever played, best sport ever made, and wow. just stuff like that just hits you whenever you think about it. You know, I never, freshman year, and everybody's told me this, Coach Pritchard, you, everybody, you know, it goes by so fast. And, you know, me sitting there freshman year thinking, no, it's not. This is gonna take forever. And I blinked, and I'm doing a senior video for the father-son thing. It's, I don't know. Can't make that stuff up. But it just, little things like that just make you realize how precious moments are in life. You know, Dad tells me all the time, you know, he loves me more than anything in this world. And, you know, it's something that's kind of always stuck with me, you know, no matter what. You know, even if I didn't want to play baseball, if I woke up tomorrow and quit, well, he wouldn't let me quit because I already started, but you know what I mean. Thank you for being the best dad a son can ask for. You know, you know, we butt heads sometimes, but that's because we're so similar. You know, me and Jake, we're pretty lucky. Growing up, we kind of had more than one dad. We had multiple dads. Chad and Kurt and Joey and everybody, they seemed to kind of have an influence on us too. No, they'd be there for me in any time of the day. You know, they're like my second dads too. I don't know, I sit back and think about it. I'm very lucky to have everybody that I have in my life. And I don't know. But thank you, Dad. And I love you very much.
Alright, so here's a little bit about my dad. First off, I mean, I'm very thankful for him and everything he's ever done for me. I could never even imagine where I would be right now if it wasn't for my dad or my grandpa, both of them, but they've both had huge impacts on my life for sure. They've always done everything they've known to do to make sure that me and the rest of my family was happy and that we've had everything that we needed, you know. They've always wanted the best for us, and they've made sure we've had that. So I know for a fact I wouldn't be who I am or have anything that I have right now if it wasn't for them. They've worked their butts off just to make sure that everyone is happy. You know, that's just who they are. But I mean, me and my dad, I've learned anything and everything that you want to know about the outdoors or hunting, fishing. I mean, literally whatever it is. I can tell you what tree. I can look outside the road and see what kind of tree something is. You know, it doesn't matter. They've taught me what everything is. And I mean, I can't thank them enough for everything that they've done. But I'm just so thankful that they're in my life and that they've made such an impact on me. And I've got learned how to work. You know, they've taught me my work ethic and everything that I've wanted to know. You know, my best memories with them's definitely in the woods or on the water. They've just I mean, they've went above and beyond to make sure that we have everything we've needed. You know, I mean, we butt heads occasionally and whatnot, but that's just part of it. And I wouldn't trade anything that we have or anything we've done for the world, you know. It's just a different kind of relationship that we have. Like, it's not just hey Dad, what's going on, you know. It's a hey Dad, when are we going to fish? When are we going to hunt? When are we going to do this or that? You know, there's always something going on or wanting to do something, and I know both of them have stood behind me and supported me in whatever I've wanted to do, and they've just made sure that I was happy, you know, and I'm extremely thankful for all that, you know. That's just stuff that I could never repay them for, and sometimes I didn't deserve it, but it didn't matter because they just wanted me to be happy because that's just who they are. But yeah, I just my dad got me into baseball and stuff when I was younger. I played t-ball with him, and he was my coach and all that stuff. I mean, baseball's been a big part of my life, but it's not been the biggest part of my life, is what I want to say. You know, there's a lot more than baseball, but it's definitely been fun. You know, he's been right there and supported me through everything. But he enjoyed me playing baseball, and he still enjoys me playing baseball. But our biggest memories have came from the woods and on the water and stuff like that. But that's just memories that you'll never forget. You know, you can go out, you know, you can go drive around in a car, whatever you want to do, but the second you step in the woods or anything like that, it's just a completely different side of a memory. You know, there's so much to see and so much that you'll never forget, just feelings, stuff that you do. You know, I'm sure he'll never forget anything that I've ever killed or caught. You know, he's been right there with me through it all. But him and my grandpa they're just great men, you know. They've just like, I hope that one day that I can do half the stuff they've done for me for anything that comes in my future, you know, wife, kids, whatever. Like, I don't even care if it's a dog, you know. Like, I just want to be able to do half of the stuff they've done for me for anything that comes in my future, you know. They would give anything to anybody, you know. That's just who they are. But I can't thank them enough for everything they've done for me, and that I've had the life that I've had so far. But I know for a fact I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for those two right there. But that's my dad, and I love him, you know. I love you, Dad.
Hi, my name is Terry May, and I am the marriage and family pastor at Central Baptist Church. Several years ago, when Pete Rose broke Ty Cobb's long-standing record for the most career hits, a reporter asked him what he thought about as he stood on base with the whole stadium on its feet, cheering wildly. And Rose said that he thought that his dad was probably looking down from heaven and was pleased with him. You know, of all the things Pete Rose could think about at that moment, as a grown man, he was still thinking about his father's approval. God has given those of us who are fathers a unique and powerful role to fulfill with our children. We influence them greatly, either for good or for bad. Some children grow up and vow that they will never be like their dads, and they spend their whole lives reacting against their fathers. I want to talk to you today about how we as dads can impart a blessing to our children. First, to bless your children, you need to observe their strengths and point them out to them. This can be accomplished when you know your children. And that may sound obvious, but often parents don't really know their children. They may live in the same house, but with busy, conflicting schedules and very little time together without work or hobbies or sports, many fathers are strangers to their children and their children to them. The fact is, God has given each child from birth a special bent or set of personality traits. And before I had children, I thought that I could shape my child's personality. I didn't realize that they come with built-in software. And while you can shape the child within his basic bent, you can't change the bent. I've heard parents say, I don't know where we went wrong with our kids. Well, we treated them all the same, they may say. And that's where they went wrong. They treated them all the same. Kids are not the same. They are all wired differently, and they develop at their own rates, and they need to be trained in accordance with their unique personalities. You have to be sensitive to each child's differences. You also see parents who assume that their child should be just like them. A dad who loves sports like me may put a football in their kid's crib, but the kid may be artistic and loves music. And if that dad loves his son and is smart, he's going to learn to love music for the sake of his son and not push that child toward a career in the NFL. Another way we deny the uniqueness of our children and show that we really don't know them is by comparing them with each other. One child is an organized, motivated student who gets his homework done without you nagging. His brother is scatterbrained and laid back. And we shout at him, why can't you do your homework like your brother? And the answer is because he is not his brother. So get to know your child by spending time with each one of them and observing them, listening to them, finding out how he or she has been uniquely made by God. Secondly, tell your children about their strengths and warn them of their weaknesses. Most of us are better at giving warnings than at giving praise. But we need to focus on strengths whenever we can. Catch our kids doing something right. It doesn't have to be big things like making straight A's. Maybe for once they didn't talk back or they didn't fight with their brother. Tell them how much you appreciate that. Don't just focus on behavior, but also on their attitudes. Often a person's greatest strength is also the source of his greatest weakness. A strong leader can also be very stubborn, and an organized person can also be very rigid. A compassionate person can be gullible. We need to encourage our children by pointing out their strengths, but we also need to give correction and reproof when necessary. And that can be in the form of preventative warnings based on our observations of their strengths and their corresponding weaknesses. When you do have to correct, make sure you do it to help them, not just to vent your frustration. Don't ever correct by putting them down, but rather from the standpoint that you want to help. You want to help them become all that God wants them to be. Thirdly, recognize the most important of a father's words. The Bible teaches that words have the power either to build up or to tear down. As someone has said, to speak of mere words is like speaking of mere dynamite. And that's especially true of a father's words to his children. They're looking primarily to you for a blessing, for words that show acceptance and approval. If your words consistently put them down through criticism or sarcasm, it's like beating on them over and over with a stick. On the other hand, kind, encouraging words that picture how the Lord can use your child can have a powerful effect on them. And I'll finish with this. Last year, an Arizona newspaper reported that they asked their readers to tell them stories about their fathers so that they could write a heartwarming Father's Day story. And the problem was nobody called in, except for a few who wanted to tell the paper what jerks their fathers were. That wasn't quite what they had in mind. So here's my challenge. Are we as dads imparting a blessing to our children? Of course, there is no such thing as a perfect human father, but perfection isn't the requirement. Our kids need our blessing imparted to them from us. We give it to them by walking daily in an honorable way and by helping them to do the same. Well, dads, I hope this has been a help to you as much as it has been a help to me. Thanks for being awesome dads. God bless.